Darrell and Karen Jerry are ready to chat with us about DLG, which just so happens to be my initials. So every time we talk about it, I think people are talking about me.
We are.
Well, everybody talks about me all the time anyway. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, I'd just like to introduce everybody to Karen. Karen, she is a member of the New Business Life Underwriting Training Team and a close colleague of mine in the development of the Digital Learning Guide. So I know some of you have heard about this. We're just going to go into a little bit more depth about this tool and this option going forward. So first, before we get into the tool, and Karen's going to be handling that part, what I want to go over first is what were the business conditions present that necessitated the creation of the Digital Learning Guide. So first of all, New Business is a local decentralized collection of learning resources. There's the Life Underwriting Training Team, but then there's 7 or 8 other teams, all of which have trainers. So they're not part of our collective group, so they sort of work by themselves. They have periodic ad hoc needs for learning materials to be created. Usually they do that themselves. Again, they're already self-serving. Let's see, the requests that they have are usually pretty small. You'll see some of that during Karen's presentation. And they're always very technically specialized. And due to the size of the material, they would be, if they were to be put through our prioritization process, it would be unlikely that they would be able to bubble up and compete against some of the larger, more strategic initiatives that we're addressing like North Star. So what were the requirements for the solution? It needed to do all of these things. So it's all the things that all of our business areas are asking for: reduced classroom time, faster time to proficiency. They need it to be easily updated. It needs to be able to be delivered asynchronously because we have underwriters that rarely, if ever, come into the office. And it needs, whatever the solution was, it needed to be compatible with a wide variety of training topics. So Life Underwriting, the materials that they work with are usually very document heavy, whereas the New Business Contact Center works with calls, so recorded calls. So the files that they'll be using are very different. And then, as I mentioned before, you have to be able to train virtually with this tool. So what did we come up with? We came up with something that we called the Digital Learning Guide. So I will hand it over to Karen.
Okay, so the Digital Learning Guide ultimately is our way of taking that big notebook we always used to get and putting it in a virtual sense so that it can be used and updated much more efficiently, and then we don't have those big notebooks sitting on our desks. So what we have right now in Life Underwriting is we have 2 applications of the Digital Learning Guide. Just to kind of give you a little bit of history about that first, it was charged about 3 years ago with to a group of underwriting to improve our AME process. AME is additional medical education, and that is usually given to underwriters at about the 2-year mark after they've been through the initial training and they've been underwriting for a period of time. So this additional medical education definitely deepens their understanding of medical underwriting, and it provides us with a means of helping them advance through their progression in underwriting too. So this group of underwriters met with Darrell, and they were charged with reducing a medical education course that took anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. It was online learning, and reduce that as well as understand what the learning was, so that we could really measure that and see if the right learning was being done. So this AME was the group of underwriters met with Darrell on a regular basis, and they developed a OneNote format. This OneNote format then was coined our DLG, and we were able to administer that. The initial part is a self-paced process, and it can be done individually as well as on their schedule, and then there's a mentorship piece. The second DLG we just started working with, and that is in our specialty product area. Specialty products are life insurance products like ULife, 1035 exchanges, APBs, which are our additional purchase benefits, and it's a very technical process. And the resources for this are under many different hats. MK, EARL, our standards, or even other resources. The DLG provided a method to pull all those resources together so that an individual can look in one place for those resources. Now, we're not pulling information, but what we're doing is we're actually linking to those resources and then advising the learner where they need to go. So currently we have 5 completed lessons for the specialty products, and we're on target to complete another 2 for a total of 7 lessons. So really the key takeaway for the DLG for us was it was customizable. So if we look, this is an example of our AME DLG. And if you look, there are tabs across the top that the learner will need to follow while they're on their self-paced journey. And we can include visuals like diagrams. There are. We can include visuals like diagrams or pictures, as well as links in this. And also what we can do is we have a resources tab, and this resources is our link to our standards so that they know, the learner will know what resources we're really trying to pinpoint. The assignments are also included in this DLG, and that's one of the tabs. So they will need to complete an assignment, and then what they will do is start setting up a time with a mentor as well as other individuals that are on the same journey so that they can review these assignments as well as have further discussions about the underwriting topics. Okay? So this is what we call our specialty product DLG, and what we did is we actually, when we met and we started developing this DLG, it was the L&D consultants as well as members from that initial AME DLG group, and we really kind of started to coin this our learning experience. Now we changed it a little bit because normally with specialty products we would get up, we would put a PowerPoint on and we'd say, here it is. There would be no other check, there would be no other practice or anything like that. So what we did is we actually coined it the learning experience to help with our change management too, so that that learner would be really engaged in understanding that it's a different experience than just being talked to. So this is the self-paced, and they will be spending time in our resources and really knowing where the resources are. So we do have a couple different little pre-work assignments that they have to go through by answering questions, but what it is forcing them into the actual MK or EARL standards so that they know where to be looking. Then what we have is we have a facilitation, which is our old classroom time, but it's a show and tell. So what we're doing is we're going through and we're actually showcasing the process and giving them the step-by-step, but then they have time to practice right in that facilitation too. And then our third part is actually the mentorship, where they are getting cases, they have to send it over to the mentor, and that mentor then does a one-on-one and gives them immediate feedback. And then based on different criteria, based on the different specialty products, then they become proficient, once they reach a certain level. Okay, so the one thing I guess I would like to kind of also point out is this is becoming popular in our area, and it's known. We did have one request where we were able to kind of evaluate it on our own, and that was the CBIS training that was needed to be done. And CBIS has a lot of good resources in MK, and it really was determined that we didn't need to spend the time building a DLG and putting that process in. We could just train right out of that mutual knowledge quick view and just making sure that the individuals know. So we were able to kind of just say the DLG was not appropriate for that situation. Okay? If you have any other questions about what the content is in, feel free to reach out to me and we can walk through what the content is in each of these DLGs, and I would love to show you and give you more of a tour.
All right, thanks, Karen. So now, thank you, Karen. All right, now, What is the sweet spot for the DLG? This can be positioned in a variety of ways, but the one that we're recommending far and away is the first one, where an area, when needed, would provide self-service with assistance and guidance from learning strategy and execution. This wouldn't be a tool that we just release into the wild and say, good luck, go nuts. And then they create who knows what. As long as we have a hand in guiding what they're building, how they're building it, using a good adult learning principles, then we can end up with the great results that Life Underwriting came up with. There are a few other options, but we're not going to position those right off the bat. Now, with metrics being important now and in the future, I decided to create a cost benefit slide. So as Karen mentioned, the original training for AMEs were complicated e-learning courses that took anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to complete and cost a minimum of $10,000 for an external contractor to build. So you can see what the total cost is. First, there's just the cost to build it. Then there's the cost of running 14 participants through it. I'm referencing 14 participants because later this month, 14 participants will be going through the asthma AME course. So you can see what the cost savings is between the self-service DLG versus an external contractor. So we're coming up on $10,000 of savings, or cost avoidance, depending how you want to think about it. Now, something that I want to mention is that with metrics so much in the foreground, in the forefront of our conversations of late, I just want to throw out this comparison. And that is, since we're not in sales, we're not actively bringing money into the organization. Rather, we are, in a sense, saving money by developing classes and training most efficiently. So, if you were to take this number and flip it around, what would this be worth, this amount of savings, if we were either in sales, bringing in premium, or we were on the investment side, investing the company's money in order to generate revenue? The equivalent of this number in premium or interest income is that. Yeah, that's a nice number. And remember, yes, please press the button.
So that 390, I just want to make sure I'm following. So 390, is that the equivalent amount of money and then needs to bring in order to fund the $9,700 of costs?
That is correct.
Okay. That'll make sure I'm following.
So,
Can you repeat that, please? We couldn't hear it back here.
I said the $319,000 on the bottom line is the equivalent amount of NM income or revenue that needs to be generated in order to produce the $9,700 of internal cost savings, right? At a 3% retained earnings, right? Right?
Okay, thank you.
and this is just from one class. Now, you only get this impact once, because then the savings after this is 2 hours of time saved per participant per hour. So you get a big splash right off the bat, but still, it's a big enough number that it should give you a
One more question. So the other question, the $10,000 average cost to build, that's got to be a very conservative number.
Yes.
Right? 4 hours of e-learning at X number of hours per hour of e-learning output times the contractor rates, probably well beyond that. So these are conservative numbers is my point, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
That projector, just to throw it out there, will go on and off by itself. It doesn't do anything, just need it's, the tech people know about it, they're trying to.
I can't stand up there like this. And
It just talks. We could.
All right, so, all right, so let's bring this home. So this presentation, all right, this is nice, but of course, what's in it for me? You can find your role on here, hopefully, and you can find out, I'll let you see what it means to you. And as Karen pointed out in her illustration before, this is not meant to be a silver bullet, one size fits all. The DLG is supposed to be spread evenly over everything like peanut butter. It is a tool, it is a technique to be applied in appropriate circumstances. All right, what are the next steps for the DLG? First,
Okay, we can go through that. Give me afterwards. You're good.
all right, so, whoops. Can you back up one slide? All right, so the next steps are, within new business, there are already requests for me to consult with their learning teams to build the DLG for some upskilling. So I'll get going with that, but coming very soon, we're going to establish some guidelines around governance because, like we were saying, we just don't want to throw it out there and let people use it as they might, and then you don't know what you're going to get. So new business has established some of that in their underwriting space, so we're going to look to get some lessons learned from that. We're going to be templatizing this so that it's standardized across all of the areas. Because right now, if you've used OneNote, you know how customizable it is. Well, we're going to try to get some standards around that. And then also we're going to add some branding to ensure a consistent look and feel. So we have a team working on that met today for the first time. And that is all. Are there any questions? I know Tony has one.
So I promise I'm not a plant for Darrell to be asking these questions, but actually the question is for you, Karen. So I'm gonna imagine you've been in the life underwriting space for a while. Maybe just a soundbite from you on what are you seeing different in terms of learner experience, where you've used this versus how you were doing it before? You kind of alluded to the bring up a PowerPoint, talk at them for a million hours, but like any direct feedback that you could share around what people that have gone through this have said versus what you've noticed in past offerings?
Sure. So I guess it is twofold. The experience is twofold too, because like the AME, where they're just learning additional medical education, they come out of it, I think, feeling a little bit more well-versed because they have a partnership even with the group that they met. So that experience, I think, is a good one. The specialty product, I think, is a bigger aha for us and kind of that learning, because specialty products, we have some resources in MK, we have some procedures in IRL, we have some procedures actually that are not even documented quite yet because they're still being, put through. We were able to pull that all together, and what it did is it provided the learner with the resources so they're more independent sooner. So instead of always needing that mentorship or needing that guidance, because they don't know what to do, they have practiced, they know what to do with the resources, and they need to really kind of just, hit the ground running once we deem them proficient. So I think that is the bigger aha. As well, it's really easy to update this. That is, from a learning and development standpoint, boy, to update this instead of doing everybody else's manual, a lot easier. So I think that's one of the wins for us. And I don't know if Darrell brought it up, we have done some of these remote, which is really kind of a key because we do have some underwriters that are remote. So we can do this remotely and still use the same process.
Can you speak to the remotely when we say remote? Sorry. When we say remotely, sometimes we think of just people working at home. Can you speak more about remote? Is there?
We have remote down in Florida. We have remote in Atlanta, in Tampa. So we do have them. That they do not come into the office at all. So that's true remote, not just work from home. If they're work from home, we are really asking them, to come in and get some of that experience too, and get that one-on-one contact with the mentors so that they can build those relationships. But we can build those relationships when they are truly remote too.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm not speaking next. Who's speaking next?
Who's next, right?
Jade.
Oh, you told me. Jane and Tony.
Jade and Tony.